Hey everybody, welcome to today's tutorial. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the hip hinge. Now a hip hinge is a really essential movement pattern which underpins a whole load of exercises that you're going to see in the gym. It also underpins a whole load of movements that you're going to see in a sporting context as well. So if you think about, if you're a golfer, your address posture at golf is essentially a hip hinge. If you're a rugby player and you're in a ruck and you're over the ball, that's essentially a hip hinge. If you think of like a goalkeeper ready to save a penalty, hip hinge. So hip hinge is really important because what it helps us do is it helps us transfer forces through our body more efficiently when we are moving. And also being able to hip hinge correctly will ensure that you are using the right muscles and the right joints in your movements so you can express more force, which is obviously really useful. So from a performance point of view and from an injury prevention point of view, it's really essential that you get this movement spot on as quick as you can. Now I'm going to go through some progressions and regressions of how I would do the hip hinge exercise in a gym environment and how I would progress that over a period of time. So I'm going to show you a whole load of different movements that are going to help you get the hip hinge, but essentially the hip hinge, let me just show you the hip hinge. One way I like to think about it is think that you're bowing to the queen. Okay, so the queen's in front of you and you bow. Okay, so your chest comes forward and your bottom goes back. Now essentially the hip hinge would result in my back position staying neutral throughout. So what I want to avoid is this kind of movement where I've not hinged from my hips at all, I've just rounded that mid upper back. Okay, so my back from head to my tailbone stays straight throughout. All I'm doing is just pushing my hips back, and that is the hip hinge. So you're bowing to the queen. Okay, so that's the hip hinge, but I'm going to show you how, if you struggle with that, and a lot of people will struggle with that initially, I'm going to show you some ideas of how to get to that stage where you can do that more efficiently. So with all of the movements that I've just shown you, there are some common themes, which I think it's really, really important that you try and instill every single time that you do these movements, whether you're doing the basic bridge right from the start or whether you're doing the deadlift that I've just shown you at the end there. So the kind of things to remember about, number one, I always want to try and create whole body tension, okay? So whether I'm doing the bridge lying on my back on the floor, or whether I'm doing the Romanian deadlift with the stick, or whether I'm doing the wall deadlift, or whether I'm doing a deadlift from the floor, I want to feel like this is braced here, okay? So as I hinge at the hips, remember, bow to the queen, on the way up now, I want to really feel like this and this are engaged. The tension is in here, okay? Certainly not so much in here, okay? But tension is in your tummy and your bum. Remember, I'm flexing the hips here, so I'm pushing those hips back, and then by virtue of that, on the way up, my bum's gonna be really involved. So squeeze your bottom. So that's number one, okay? Hinge at the hips, tummy and bum really tense and stiff throughout, okay? The other thing as well, and oftentimes I see people doing deadlift, is they get a little bit lazy with their upper body, and their upper body posture starts to go, especially when the weight starts to get a little bit heavier. So imagine that you are, if you're doing the barbell or the stick, that you're trying to snap that stick, like you're trying to snap it there. And what you'll find is that starts to engage these mid-back muscles and creates tension here. The other little drill I sometimes do is imagine someone's trying to pull the bar away from you and you've got to resist and pull back. Okay, and you can see there, I start to create tension in those big back muscles, and then I can hinge a lot more effectively. Okay, so tension here and here, try and snap the bar or pull the bar towards you to create tension in here as well. Okay, good luck with that, guys.